order. At this time, I would ask everyone to please rise. And this evening, newly elected Whitney Venable, Councilman, will be leading us in pledge and prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, please be with us tonight as we try to make the best decisions we can for the town of Boonville and its citizens.
Amen.
First order of business tonight will be the swearing in of Vanessa Dorman.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I possess all the qualifications prescribed for the office of which I have been elected by law, that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Missouri, the provisions of all laws of this state, affecting cities of the third class, and the ordinances of said city, and faithfully demean myself in the office of which I have been elected of the city of Boonville, Missouri. Congratulations. You're welcome.
Nicely done.
Are there any cookies left?
No reception, Vanessa, sorry. But they were really good.
I heard.
Teresa, when you're ready, we'll ask you to call roll, please.
Venable.
Here.
Dorman.
Here.
Stock.
Here.
Young.
Here.
Meadows.
Here.
Beach.
Here.
Hurt.
Here.
Carter.
Here.
Thank you very much. Hearing of citizens' comments. It's at this time, if there's anyone in the audience who would like to make comments, we ask that you come to the microphone and sign in, and you limit your comments to 5 minutes, please. Seeing none, we'll move along to approval of the minutes of the April 11th, 2017 council meeting. You've had those over the weekend to look at. Are there any additions, corrections, or anything? Hearing none, they will stand as presented. Consent items, we have none this evening. Presentations of accounts and claims, those were at your spot. So Teresa, if you would please.
Ordinance appropriating money. Be it ordained by the council of the city of Boonville as follows. Section 1. For the purpose of paying salaries and various accounts against the city of Boonville, which have been allowed by the council at the regular meeting thereof on April 17th, 2017, the sum of $300,665.49. General fund, $145,193.29. Sanitation, $3,012.29. CIP tax, $23,994.55. Waterworks, $109,432.73. Capital projects, $54.00. Wastewater, $11,124.50. Tourism, $3,747.13. Gaming, $4,107.00. Parks and Water, $0.00. Section 2. The accountant is hereby authorized and instructed to draw checks on the respective city bank accounts in favor of the persons whose salaries and accounts have been allowed as above, amounting to $300,665.49, being the total amount of money above appropriated. Section 3. This ordinance shall take effect and be enforced from and after its passage. First reading on April 17th, 2017. Read for the second time this 17th day of April 2017, since a copy was made available prior to the meeting.
Second reading, title only.
Ordinance appropriating money.
Mayor, make a motion this be approved.
Thank you, Morris. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Whitney. Questions or comments? Roll call.
Venable.
Yes.
Dorman.
Yes.
Stock.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Meadows.
Yes.
Beach.
Yes.
Hurt.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Unfinished business, we have none this evening. New business, consider street closure and parking restriction request for the Katy Bridge Coalition for an event to be held on June the 3rd. And Sarah is here if anyone has any questions. Ned?
I move to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions for Sarah? Did you want to talk about, it's a different location or a different format, or did you want to talk about that at all or not? Well, why don't you? We've got a pretty short agenda tonight.
Oh, so you're
We're looking for folks, yeah.
Great. We are doing something different this year, which we have been talking about it for a couple of years, about showcasing actually Phase 1. We get people in town, they're downtown, they go from business to business, but really the idea at this point is to really show off the facility that we have here. We have actually already had a wedding out there, and we do have interest in using the bridge. So we thought this year we would have it down in that area. As anybody who was around here knows, that's where we really started out having the Katy Bridge Festival, was down there on there in front of the depot. DNR in the changeover, I guess, has a few different restrictions and requests and things. So we decided, we had discussed it with Kate, and we decided to utilize First Street there in front of the Selwyn, which we did get their approval, and also over to the parking area that is by the Katy Trail access leading up to the bridge. And we've got several people that are helping us, partnering with us this year. We're going to have some different events. I don't have anything that I can really probably share right now, but we call it Spirit of the Katy Bridge, and we will have distilleries, wineries, there'll be food there, we'll have a band there, so there's a lot of changes really in this, and we feel like it'll be really helpful in promoting the fundraising for some of the other parts. We're working with Howard County a little bit, and we've got some other things going on, so I think it's a good time to move down there. So,
Okay.
Anybody have any questions about that? I don't need to sign my name.
No. Thank you, Sarah. Good luck on the event.
I think it'll be fun.
Roll call.
Venable.
Yes.
Dorman.
Yes.
Stock.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Meadows.
Yes.
Beach.
Yes.
Hurt.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Reports of standing committees, the IDA. I think Becky was there, so I don't know. Jim is not here, so we can save our questions for when Jim gives a report. Street, alley, and sanitation, Susan?
The minutes are in the packet. It was an interesting meeting. Heard about the traffic coming through as a result of the Missouri River Bridge
Right.
emergency repair, so.
Okay. Planning and zoning, Steve?
The meeting was canceled.
Okay. Tourism, Ned?
Meeting canceled.
Okay. Police board, Henry?
We met, and if there's any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Okay. Housing authority, Ned?
Minutes are in the packet. Great meeting.
Reports of city officials, city administrator.
Yeah, I believe there's a request to change a date for a hearing on a dangerous building, 2 dangerous buildings. I think we had some service issues, so we want to delay that to 2 meeting cycles to the first meeting in June. So we probably need a motion to formally change that from our previous date.
So moved.
Thank you, Ned. Or a second?
Second.
Okay.
Is it the same time?
6:30.
6:30.
6:30.
June the 5th.
Roll call.
Venable.
Yes.
Dorman.
Yes.
Stock.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Meadows.
Yes.
Beach.
Yes.
Hurt.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Anything else?
I do. Given that we have a fairly short agenda tonight, I wanted to make some comments about the water. I passed out a little packet to the council. ML has the same packet that's available to anybody else who wants to look at it. So he'll pass that out as we begin here. But as many of you know, there's been quite a bit of talk about it and probably a fair degree of consternation. And so I thought I would take a look at it. There's lots of stuff comes up on our screen. You know, it's pretty hard to function in the real world anymore without getting in trouble from one place or another with the immense regulatory apparatus that exists out there if you want to do anything of substance in the real world. But while I'm not a chemist or a biologist or an epidemiologist, which probably is required to really understand that, I do claim to be able to read and apply a little bit of critical thought and analysis to it. So here goes. The first page in your little packet there, I thought is just a nice, succinct description of what the issues are. It's TTHM. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce that, what that total, whatever that is, but the important thing is to try to understand that this is a naturally occurring process. If you use chlorine for chlorination, which is very important, it's immensely effective, been used in many, many water systems for a long time. It's in fact what makes the water so it doesn't make you sick the next day when you drink something, because it kills stuff. Well, in the process of using that, you see this word byproduct. When you use that, there are some byproducts that come from doing that piece of good work. And that is, if there's organics in your water, and I can't illuminate exactly what organics is, but in most water, there's still some stuff in there that may be harmless to us, but it enables the chlorine characteristics to combine with those organics. And that's called a byproduct, and I think there's three little pieces of that puzzle. But those byproducts have been identified as having a potential effect. But again, the important to know is this just happens. It's not something we did. It's not something we did wrong. It's not something we should have did. It's not something we can go out there and tweak the button or add this or quit doing this or do something. It just happens. And so, and it's probably been happening for quite a while, and frankly has not ever been defined as a problem until in the last number of years. So I invite you to read that little paragraph I got there. It's pretty short and sweet. You do notice it qualifies it a number of times. It says TTHM do not pose a high health risk compared to waterborne diseases. But it's something you need to address. But it's not an emergency. It's not something that's going to impact anybody in the short term, and indeed in what I'd consider quite a bit longer than the short term. So we're going to the next page. What is this so-called risk, and what triggers you to be susceptible to something? Well, if we look there, I've underlined a couple things. This little page comes out of a report from some place called the World Health Organization. So I don't have a clue what that is, but they think they're pretty definitive. So if you look on down in there, so when does this start becoming an issue? If you see down there, it says average drinking water consumption of 2 liters per day. We all know what a 2-liter bottle is. About, 20, 30 years ago, soda started coming out in the 2-liter bottles. Remember, I used to buy it, and it was kind of a chore to get it drank before it went flat. That's quite a bit of liquid in one day. Now, I don't know, you're supposed to drink a lot of water, and I think I do drink a lot of water, but I'm not sure I drink 2 liters a day. So that's first hurdle to get over. Then, what's next? Well, we jump on down a little bit, and it talks, you see the period of 70 years, and we're going to see this risk profile illuminated a little different in a minute. 70 years. And by the way, that's 25,550 days of which you're supposed to drink this 1 liter of water. 2 liters, excuse me, 2 liters. Don't want to cut it in half. And so if you do that, what is your risk? You have a risk of, this illuminates cancer. There's actually some other suppositions that might be a different kind of a health risk, but you have a risk of 1 in 100,000 of something happening to you. You got to meet those 2 thresholds, but then it's 1 in 100,000. So I give you a little decimal there just to see what this is, because when numbers get big, they're hard to understand. So you see over there, you got a decimal point. We all know a penny is 0.01. Well, this is 0.00001. So I'll leave that to everybody to form their own judgment on whether you think you should worry about this in that short a term. But nonetheless, it's on the plate, so we're gonna attempt to deal with it. So we're going to go on to the next page. This is a little more background information on what sort of that begins to bring it down to us. Some of this stuff started in 2004, then it gravitated to us in 2013 as it trickled down the sizes of towns. So again, it's a relatively recent phenomenon when anybody even cared about it, let alone try to start measuring it, let alone trying to define what the risk might be with any degree of certainty, and there is no certainty. So if you look down at the bottom, and this was prepared by Mark and some of his cohorts from Alliance, what are ways to eliminate this DBT, disinfection byproducts? How can you sort of start trying to address these things? One, you try to reduce the source of the water, organics. That's somewhat easy. All of these are a little easier said than done. You reduce the amount of chlorine used in disinfection, but when you do that, then you shortchange your other more critical variable that we talked about a little early on. 2, you slow down the reaction of the chlorine and the organic material. We'll talk about that some more. Or you try to rid the things after they've already formed. But there isn't any certainty, there isn't any magic bullet. If you do this, it's going to fix it. Nobody's told us that yet, including DNR. They offered a suggestion or 2, which we'll address pretty soon, but nobody has a magic bullet on how any specific situation fixes these things. So you just kind of start doing stuff.
Is the testing done before treatment or after treatment or both?
It's after treatment, after it's in a distribution system.
Okay.
So take samples. So just as a note on this process, the Boonville plant was more or less built in 1999. Actually, the design was probably before that. So you can see it was built and done before this was on anybody's radar screen. So we take that variable off about shoulda, woulda, coulda, do something different. So, and I would also note DNR approved every last detail of our plan.
Right.
So let's move on. The next page is the notice we've been sending out. And the first thing I want to observe, this isn't our verbiage. We didn't write this notice. The only part we wrote is down there in the middle about what happened and what's being done. That little 5-sentence piece there. But we're going to read through there again. This is sort of a rehashing of what I talked about earlier. If you see down there, it says and again, we didn't write this. It's not ML, not Alliance, not me, it's nobody. It's given to us and say this is what you use. So it says, again, long-term exposure of drinking 2 liters of water every day for 70 years. And then, what does it do? It doesn't give you any of the percentages that the other one had, but it says it may experience problems, may have increased risk. May doesn't imply any certainty to me. Doesn't say will, doesn't say shall, doesn't say there's a cause and effect here. It's just a correlation. If anybody took any statistics along the way, you can correlate a lot of things. So again, in this particular quarter, which is our most recent one, our average, running average, so you take one of these every quarter, you send it to DNR, we're not even allowed to test it ourselves for official purpose. So they do it in their lab. Our running average is 89, and we'll see how that is calculated in a minute. The limit's 80. So we're within, 10% more or less there? Given the variables and the inexactitude of this, that should be instructive, I think. So, let's go on to the next page. This is our recent history. We measure this in a couple of locations throughout the distribution system, and you can see the quarters going there. They're not on the exact end of every quarter because it's just sometime during the quarter. But I circled there in the middle of what our last, measurements are, the 64.9, 106, 128, 56. If you add those up and divide them by 4 to get an average, that's where we get our 89, which is over there in the bottom of the last column. We have sampled 331.17 and sent it in, but we don't know the result from that. So our current average is 89. We got to get to 80. So the other thing to remember here is, as you see in these numbers, if you put them together with the calendar, there's a bit of a seasonal thing to it. And frankly, it looks like, and any of you guys correct me if I'm saying something wrong, it looks like it's probably more, the combination of these things is more likely to happen in warmer weather. So we're going into warmer weather season. So I don't know if we get 56 next time or not. But the other thing to take from this, of course, if you add those numbers up and we get the March one back, the 64.9 is going off and a new one's coming in. Well, to get us down to 80, it would take like a 22. Well, we're not going to do that. So we're going to go through this round at least one more time, maybe more, but one more time because the numbers don't work to get us down to 80. Now, the next two quarters are ripe for improvement if we can overcome the seasonality and if some of the things we've done really work. And we're going to go back and talk about them in a minute. But that's the first thing to take is this probably isn't fixed next quarter or the next report because the numbers just don't work, okay? So, but hopefully over the summer we can knock those numbers down enough to get us back under the 80. So let's talk about the 80 a minute. That's what the U.S. standard, I guess it's EPA thing. I asked Mark to sniff around, and I looked around myself. There are some places in Europe where the number's a little lower. I don't think I saw anything less than 60. But there are also places where the number's higher. England's 100. Canada's 100. Australia's 250. I don't have any reason to think any of those officials are any less worried about the health of their citizens than we are. Yet they decided a higher number. Now, if we were any of those, we wouldn't even be talking about this because we'd be in compliance the whole year. So I think that just reinforces the uncertainty, the vagueness, and the speculative nature of all of this stuff. So let's go back on to the agenda, if you will, down about halfway. And what have we been doing? Well, I guess my overview would be we've done everything anybody has told us that might have a chance of working. As I said, nobody said you do this and it's fixed. So what did we do last year? We put 2 mixers in. Now, again, if we go back to that little section about how you reduce it, number 3 said slow down the reaction of chlorine and organic material. The way you slow it down is you keep the water stirred up because it needs a little stillness for them to do their combination. So we try to keep it stirred up. Now, you can think of the mixer at home in your kitchen, which you turn on and it stirs up whatever you're stirring up. Well, that's one thing, but we're trying to stir up in the Crone Tower, that's 500,000 gallons. In the basin up at the water plant, that's 1 million. Now, some of the other towers are smaller, but it's going to take more than a straw to stir that stuff up, right? So, it's no small effort, and we have 2 of them installed. They're done in place, but they were finished late last year, so the impact of that has to play out over time, but we did 2 of them at a cost of about $130,000. We have 2 more planned this year. Those are going to go on the Cat Tower and the tower by the hospital. We took the two we did because that's where the bulk of the water is and where the bulk of the population is served from. These are a little further outlying. So, the other thing, actually, this was a DNR idea, and I hope it's a good idea, but we don't know, was they thought there's a basin inside the building out there that you can't see. There's some basins that sit up. First basin coming up from the river is called a mud pocket, because literally when it comes up there, it's dirty. It's got mud and all kinds of stuff in it, so it sits there and you literally have to take a machine in there to scoop up the mud. But as it works its way through the process, that stuff settles out. Well, this is one last spot in the treatment, so what settles in there is much less. But there may still be some. We've not had a practice of trying to take that out because it's de minimis, but they thought maybe that was a source of these organics, which you see is number one back on our remedy method. If we reduce the amount of organics, there's less opportunity for combination. There's fewer partners. So we're going to somehow go in and vacuum. Is that 1 million gallons? What is that, Mark?
576,000.
576,000. We got to put a guy in the water to go down underneath the water and vacuum up whatever's on the bottom of a 567,000 swimming pool with a lid on it.
There'll be 4 guys in the water.
4 guys in the water. All right, well, I can understand why you'd want a partner in that situation, because there's a roof on this thing too, so.
So do people really volunteer to do that?
You have to pay them. Yeah, they're not us. I didn't have any volunteers coming, so we're going to do that, and the price wasn't too bad. I expected it to be worse, so I hope it's effective. But again, that contract's awarded, and hopefully they're here in the next 3 weeks, and do that, and we'll see if that works anything. Again, we have the 2 more mixers. There's one other little thing about rearranging where we inject the chlorine, which I think Mark is working on. We're not convinced that has a lot of efficacy, but we're going to do it anyway, I believe. So we're going to do that, and at that point, I don't know that anybody has any other great ideas. Mark, do you? Did any of your company? So we're going to do all those things, but it takes a while to see if they're going to work. You have to play them out, you have to get them in, you have to sample, and then you got the seasonality to overcome and all that. So it's quarter by quarter by quarter, and then by the time you get them in, it's cold again, so you got to wait till next year. So this stuff's probably going to string on. I hope it doesn't. It's going to string on, but I think we all just need to sort of take a deep breath about it, and we're going to work through it. We didn't cause a problem. We just soon go away like everybody else would. We don't need the aggravation. But that's not to say it's not important. And like I said, so far, if anybody's given us idea, we've done everything anybody said to do, and as fast as we could. And so we're continuing on that. But again, I think a little moderation, a little deep breath, because there isn't any short-term impact to anybody as far as anything that I have seen that would remotely suggest anything of that nature. It's a long-term process, and I think even the hurdles to that I don't think it's a high hurdle, Vanessa, I think it's a high jump, so anyway, so, Mark, Emil, anybody got anything to add? I don't know, I think it's just...
Some of the things that they suggest we're going to do, it actually, those, I'm just going to add on to that, it's a long-term issue.
Mark, would you come to the microphone, please? Because I know people are listening and want to hear what you have to say.
Sorry. I just wanted to add on to one of Earl's comments about being a long-term fix. And some of this stuff has to be engineered. We have to engineer it, or we have to have it engineered. We have to go through the DNR permitting process for it. It has to be reviewed, approved, and then we can take it out for bid and that. It's a very lengthy process. It's not a process that's done overnight. So that's the main, I just wanted to reiterate what Earl had said about that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted to kind of sum up is that
the reality is our water is cleaner today than it was 15 years ago. So the standard of our water is improving. The regulations are also getting a little stiffer. So we're always chasing this. The water's cleaner today than it was 15 years ago. Over the last 15 years, we've added equipment, aerators, flocculators, improvement in coagulation, not to mention the mixers and things that Earl mentioned. But that's how I sum it up. It's cleaner today than it was 15 years ago. The regulations are changing on us.
Okay. Any comments from anyone? Okay. Thank you very much, Earl. That was very informative, and I hope that people were listening at home. And if they have questions, I'm sure Earl or ML would be glad to talk to them. So.
It's not an easy subject. I've had some folks come in and visit with me, and I have to pace myself because to understand this, you have to have very much the same amount of explanation that Earl just gave you. I can't, in all fairness to the individual asking the question, just say it's okay. I have to explain all the implications of the changing rules and those sort of things. So it takes a little effort on the customer's part to ask us these questions, but customers have, not as many as I think should, and more call us. Talk to me, talk to Mark.
Okay. Thanks, ML. Steve?
So how are other towns in our area doing?
I'll let, there's quite a number. I don't know that we asked DNR for a number, and I don't think they ever gave it to us, but there's a number that have some issues. I'm not conversant with.
Yeah, our office that we deal with out for the DNR is the Northeast Regional Office out of Macon. And the last figure that I heard was there's about, I want to say 26 different either cities or water districts that have issues with TTHMs, and that's just in that district. I have a call in to them to get a more concrete number, but I haven't gotten that yet.
How many districts are there, Mark?
I believe there's 4 or 5 districts.
So we're looking well over 100.
You're probably, yeah.
So, don't you manage Nevada?
Yes, sir.
So that would be a town about the same size as Boonville. I'm just kind of wondering how they're doing.
I couldn't tell you right
You
offhand.
couldn't?
Yeah, I can get that information for you tomorrow, though.
That'd be-
Would that be sufficient for you?
Well, it's just information, yeah, just information.
they-
Yeah, I mean, I can.
It's kind of like the, same size town.
Yeah, back in my mind says they've had water problems for a long time. It was some kind of sulfur thing in the water. I think they built some kind of spent $20 million on some kind of a different kind of a plant. So they might not even be chlorination based.
Yeah,
anymore,
they had
some
issues
big
with
issues
sulfur, hydrogen sulfide quite a
it was
bit in the
mess
water.
down there for
And,
the first part of my career.
yeah.
So,
But yeah,
but
I
anyway,
can get that information to you.
Okay, good question, Steve. Anything else on water quality? Okay. Moving along, under my report, I passed out a list of committee appointments that I would like to make, and I'd like to add 2 names to that I just recently firmed up. And one would be under Board of Public Works. T.C. Miller will be going on in addition to Kathy Lang, and that is, he will be replacing Wade Davis, and Wade Davis has been the chairman of that board for so long and done such a wonderful job. ML, you want to talk about him a little bit? He deserves a pat on the back.
We're not finished with our research, but we believe that Mr. Davis has been a City of Boonville board member longer than anybody ever. It appears that Mr. Davis was appointed to city boards as far back as the early 70s, and he's been a continuous member. So we have a lot of record digging to figure this out. But yeah, Mr. Davis has been with us a long time. He's been an active member with us a long, long time.
So his health has gotten to the point where he cannot make to meetings, so he's been a very dedicated committee member for a long time. So T.C. Miller has agreed to take his place on the board. And then on the fire board, Liz Davis has just freshly agreed to go on that board. So I would entertain a motion to adopt this list of appointees.
So moved.
Thank you, Morris. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vanessa. And there will be some more. I've got a few more appointments I need to make, but we're getting really, really close. Roll call.
Venable,
Yes.
Dorman,
Yes.
Stock,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Meadows,
Yes.
Beach,
Yes.
Hurt,
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
City Councilor, Clarissa.
No report tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
City Clerk,
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
miscellaneous. Mel's got some miscellaneous.
Sarah mentioned, of course, the revamp Katy Bridge fundraising function, and she mentioned a wedding on the Katy Bridge here this last weekend or two. We've also had a request for a lunch and learn event on the Katy Bridge. The American Public Works Association Mid-Missouri chapter has asked us to investigate a picnic lunch and then a presentation on the bridge. So you're going to have guests, 15 or 20 civil engineers out there on the bridge, and you all know what civil engineers think of bridges, so it's going to be an exciting event for them.
Let us know the date.
Yeah. Any other miscellaneous?
So moved.
Second?
Second to adjourn? Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
I like the-
You like that?